here inside AngeloSports.com with Angelo State track and field head coach James Reid. Coach Reid, three pretty impressive marks for the men in the pole vault last weekend at the Michael Johnson Classic. You talk about just the effort from Andrew, from Jacob, from Tyler.
Well, it was a good weekend for us. Obviously, with the vault, it's a demanding event. It's one that the conditions have to be pretty good to pull off good marks. It's an event where the implement can determine the outcome, which, if it's a good day and good conditions and you can get on a bigger pole, and the theory behind it is the bigger pole I can get on, then the higher I can jump. And conditions I wouldn't say they were great, but they were very favorable. We had a pretty decent tailwind, had good competition, hot weather, and that allowed for us to, we didn't jump on the biggest poles that we had, but it did allow us to get on some poles that allowed us to jump some good bars.
Okay. All three marks, provisional marks, and personal bests for those athletes. You've got Shane Holmes, who's fourth in the conference right now, behind those three in the pole vault. And then over on the women's side, you got the two leaders in Summer Sutherland and Kelsey. Can you talk about is there something in the water here? Is it altitude or?
No, I don't think that we're not at altitude, so I don't think it has anything to do with it. I think it's just it's a neat group of kids that we have here. We've always had, since I've been here, I've been fortunate to have some good vaulters, and it's the event I've been coaching the longest. It's an event that my dad excelled at as far as coaching, and my brother was a vaulter, and so I've kind of been around it my whole life, and that's one of the reasons I went into coaching the vault when I first started coaching. And we've had many good ones through the years. I think it kind of takes a special breed of person. They've got to be very, very athletic, because what we're asking them to do, got to have kind of the speed of a sprinter. They've got to have the jumping ability of a good long jumper, and then they've got to have some great upper body strength and body control once we get in the air. And these kids kind of exhibit that. They might not be the fastest on the track as far as 100-meter speed, but they get down the runway fast enough where we can plant, again, a pole that's going to allow us to jump high. And I can't take much of the credit at all. These kids, it's an event that they love and they want to excel at. And it can be very frustrating at times. And that's one of the things. The two vertical jumps are unique events in track and field because it's the only event where you're going to end the meet on a failure. And so it takes some mental capacity to be able to get around that, because at the end of the day, unless you just stop jumping, which very few kids will do that, your competition is going to be over once you've missed 3 times and at that height. So it's kind of mentally can be draining at times, because even when we jump high like we did on Saturday with those 3 guys, they still walk away mad because they didn't clear the next bar, so they ended on a failure. And so I think it makes it a unique event, and I think it takes kids that are a little bit on the edge. I wouldn't say they're crazy, but definitely have some courage to be able to get up 16, 17 feet in the air on a small fiberglass tube.
I guess six total with provisional marks already, and Jacob and Andrew with some pretty solid marks that probably make it to nationals. But on a national level, you look at Grand Valley. I think they had 2 on the women's side that had provisionally qualified, but and then on the men's side, I think Pitt State had maybe 2 in the top 15. But really, nobody with more than 2 or 3. Have you had a group like this before? That
probably not both sides. I mean, there was some time early in my coaching career here where we would have 3 on the list, and then we didn't have women for a long time because they didn't add the event until the late 90s. But since the women have picked it up, we've been fortunate enough to have a couple of women, a couple of guys each year on the list, but probably not this many. I don't recall having 6 on the list. There have been times where we've had multiple All-Americans, at least 2 on the war stand, and that's one of the things that I'm telling these kids is that we're excited about having a bunch on the list, and right now if the declaration was today, it looked like they'd all get in, but just getting to the meet is not what we want to excel to. We want to get there, but then I want every one of them on the board stand. And that's going to help them out, obviously, individually because they'll be All-American, but then also for our team, score some good points for us there.
Yeah, I guess from a national and from a conference perspective, how important is it to have good pole vaulters, and how many points can you pick up there versus other teams?
Well, this year in the conference, it's those two. This event, the pole vault, is going to have to be a big event for us. On the men's side, those guys are going to have to score well. They're going to have to jump high, and they're going to have to place all of them if we're going to try to aspire to what we need to do team-wise. We're counting on some big points from there. Now, it's also a crazy event because strange things can happen. You can have some no heights and things like that. Kids don't jump as well as they typically do, so there's always that possibility where, on paper we should score this many points, but there's no guarantees in this event, in the vertical events, because there's always that possibility of getting no points. In the linear jumps, and the horizontal jumps and the sprints and things like that, you might not run your best, but you're still going to get a place. But in the vault, if you're off, you don't have a good day, there's a possibility of scoring no points. So it's kind of a iffy one. But the women's side's equally the same. Right now, Summer and Kelsey are leading the conference, and we need them both to jump high and to finish where we are going in if we're going to be able to do what we want to do. A little concerned right now with Summer. She's got an injury that she's dealing with. But definitely this event, the pole vault, for both the men and the women at the conference meet, could be very, very big events for us because we could score a lot of points there. And traditionally, we've had good jumpers at the conference level. This year, Abilene Christian's a little down. Usually they're battling us because they have good vaulters as well. Kingsville's got a pretty good girl that's jumping right now, and they've got some guys. They've got one that's jumped real well at their home meet. I don't know if they activated him or not. They were originally redshirting him, but he jumped so well there that they were talking about maybe going ahead and activating him and jumping him. But I don't think there's any event that you could say, hey, this is a lock, but we definitely could score some good points both in men and the women at the conference meet.
Okay, we talked a little bit about the external competition, but the internal competition with everybody jumping so high, does that help success breed more success?
Well, it does. What it does, it helps, obviously at the meets it helps because there's more than one of them out there, and it kind of keeps the mood light, and it kind of they help each other out from that standpoint. But I think where we see the biggest advantage is during the week of practice because these kids are competitors just like most athletes are, and they don't want anybody to out-jump them. And when we get into a good jump session at practice and somebody starts clearing a bar, boy, it just, I don't know, it kind of eggs the other ones on that, hey, I need to clear that bar too. And that kind of is what's allowed them to jump so well this year because nobody wants anybody to get a leg up on them. And there's been plenty of days I know that if they were to be truthful, they'd say, I really don't feel like jumping today. My legs hurt, my back's hurt, something like that. Those things that typically come up, but all of a sudden one of them will go down there and plant the pole and swing up, clear a good bar, and then it's on. And we put everything else aside, and that's allowed us to get some good jump sessions stacked on top of each other. And that's really, it's a rhythmic event, kind of like the hurdles and some of the other technical events. So the more time spent on the runway and the more time completing jumps and getting on certain poles will allow you to be successful in theory when the meet rolls around.
Okay, well, it's been fun to watch so far, so keep up the good work and good luck at conference.
Thank you.